Welcome back, everybody, and have co-founder and owner um, with James Barrett with Tenant Turner. James, are you still CEO? What's your official role over there?
Yeah, I
Don't,
can't.
don't even know that,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All
Well,
right.
yeah, yeah.
All right. No worries. Let me.
Much as I'd like to talk about that stuff, Pete, I just can't right now, just because I'm not sure what I'm
What
able.
even your role
Uh,
is? Okay. No worries.
yeah,
No worries. All right. Let me turn this one off one more
yeah. The,
time.
sa- the
Uh,
safest bet is co-founder of Tenant Turner.
okay. All right. Here we go. Take two. All right, welcome back, everybody. I got James Barrett, co-founder of Tenant Turner. So, James, thanks so much for being here today with us.
Yeah, sure thing, Pete. Thanks for having me.
So, I used Tenant Turner back in the day when I had Empire years ago, and I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. But how did you come up with the idea of Tenant Turner?
Yeah, great question. So over 10 years ago, myself and my co-founders, we were all IT consultants, and we had a couple townhomes, condos, things like that we were living in. And then the economy took a turn, in '07, '08, '09. And at that point, we had to make the decision, do we want to sell our homes and, move into a different place at some point? And if we did that, the property values had really tanked. And so that meant we would have had to write, the mortgage companies a big old check, which we had no desire to do that. So the other option was like, well, hey, maybe we should hold on to these rental properties and or hang on to these properties and turn them into rentals. And that's what kind of started our kind of process down this path. So really, IT
So, you guys
consultant
literally became
nerds.
reluctant landlords.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, we're
Okay.
reluctant landlords, accidental landlords. We were part of that wave that happened, just before 2010. And it really kind of set the foundation for what eventually became Tenant Turner.
So, okay, most people that I know of has that issue, and they create a property management firm. So you ended up not creating a property management firm. So what made you think of like, and this is what, 13, I think, when Tenant Turner went live? Is
Yeah.
that
Yep.
about right?
Yep.
You're an early adopter of technology in the industry. There wasn't really much technology at that time other than, the property management software. So talk a little bit about like how'd you have that BFO like, oh man, we need to do leasing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was, it's the beginning of the journey, right? Like the first thing as landlords that we had to do was figure out how we were going to find somebody to rent our property. And at the time we were starting to kind of be introduced to professional property management. We met some folks in Richmond, like Duke Dotson at Dotson Property Management, Ralph Reard over at RPM Metro Richmond. Um, and realized that there were some of these problems that we experience as landlords, they existed with the property management industry as well. It's very difficult to lease the properties when, at the moment you put it on, you get 100 inquiries, and many of them are looky-loos and tire kickers. We started to hear these stories where people were, having a leasing agent or a property manager show up at a rental, and then the people that they scheduled a showing with never showed up. Or that, one of my favorite stories from those early days was a property manager at Dodson was telling us that she just couldn't break away from her phone over the weekend. And once she started utilizing Tenant Turner, she was able to set her phone aside and just enjoy a pool day, and actually enjoy her weekend because her phone wasn't ringing off the hook because we were able to take those calls off of her plate. So those are experiences that we dealt with firsthand as, the accidental landlords. Then we built the software because that's all we really knew to do. We didn't come from a real estate background. We weren't realtors. We weren't property managers. We were software developers.
Yeah, you
But I think
weren't even
ultimately,
investors.
yeah, we weren't even
You were,
investors.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. We really came at the industry, because of a life situation. And we were lucky in that we had each other. So my two co-founders, one of them I went to high school with, another was our development Java tutor at the school we went to, VCU, and we all studied information systems. So, like I said, the nerdiest of the nerds when it comes to like software development. But when it came to real estate, yeah, we were novices. We basically only ever purchased one home. And at that point, none of us had ever sold a home that we had ever lived in. We weren't realtors, we weren't property managers. We are just some nerds that felt like there was a real problem worth solving during that phase.
So what did you find were the main problems, and what does Tenant Turner solve today? Obviously, it helps with phone calls, but talk a little bit more about the product itself and what are the pain points that it solves for property managers.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, a lot of the pain points that property managers, have today who aren't utilizing software like Tenant Turner, it's the same pain points that existed back then. If you wanted to market your property, you would generally have to interact with multiple different tools, whether that's like a rent links that no longer exists or a Zillow rental manager, or you're trying to push your properties through some kind of archaic other software system. With Tenant Turner, I was like, all right, let's get as many leads as we possibly can by establishing these relationships with not just the Zillows, Trulias, and Hotpads, but let's get it on the apartment advisors. Let's get it on the apartments.com, the rent.com, the apartment guide. Let's get that listing out in as
So
many
one
places as
place, and
possible.
it could spider your marketing to
Yep,
to everywhere. Which so now you don't have to. I only have to put one ad in, right? Which
exactly.
sounds normal now, but it was really made. It was really different. 10 years ago now, which is
It
crazy.
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really was. Like you said, now it's like property managers who are just now entered, they don't know how good they have it, right? With all these different tools that are out there. But think 10, 15 years ago, they were having to, use QuickBooks. And it was
Yeah.
before everybody had really adopted these tools like AppFolio or Propertyware, Rent Manager, Buildium, Tenant Cloud. As before Show Mojos and Rentleys and Tenant Turners. Like
It's what's
there's a lot
allowing
of tools
property
out there now.
managers to grow these days. All
Yeah.
the tools to leverage.
Yeah, and before it was everybody was answering phone calls from tenant leads because as soon as you market that property, you just get slammed. And particularly during that time frame, right? Like there's a lot less moving around now. It's historically low in terms of people moving, whether they're buying homes or renting. But just 10, 15 years ago, it was too big of a burden for many people to handle on their own.
So Tenant Turner was one of the first companies that really embraced or pushed for self showings. Talk a little bit about like what made you guys come up to that? Because when you guys came up with that, you had a lot of pushback from property managers. It wasn't before, I mean, it was getting adopted before the pandemic, but I'm guessing it really took off after the pandemic. But tell a little bit about that story. How'd you came up with that, and why you thought it was a good idea, and how you got the adoption?
Yeah, it was, it was really came from customer feedback, right? So there are people out there. I think you were an early adopter in that concept, and there were others out there who really liked the idea of self-guided tours and self showings, whether they were using a competitor or if they were doing mechanical lock boxes. That was a very common thing. Like the earliest of adopters of self-guided tours, these are people who've been doing it for 20 years. Another alternative within the self-guided tour realm is, people doing like a key checkout at their office. So somebody would still go view the property on their own without a leasing agent, but they'd come to the office, normally leave leave their ID or a $20 deposit or something like that. And as
Yeah,
a
and then it
software
got to the point
person,
where it's like, don't even come get the key. We'll just give you the code.
let's
But
just give you the
then
code.
they leave the lockbox open. They lock the key inside the house or something else, right? So how did
Yep.
Tenant Turner solve some of that?
Yeah, and that's where you kind of look at those business processes that have existed for decades, and you say, okay, we can utilize software to streamline this process, make it more safe for the property manager, for the property owner, for the prospective tenant, and really ensure that things are being tracked appropriately, right? So that's a big component of what we're trying to do is like we're making sure that are only allowing people to access properties that should. So we do our fraud detection checks up front. We're collecting a copy of the ID, but it's being done digitally, stored digitally. So you don't have PII floating around the office. That's the type of thing that would have to either get shredded after somebody viewed the property or end up in a specific filing cabinet. So those were able to be moved online. And because of that, we were able to use different tools and techniques to run these different checks that would ensure validity of these IDs. It's not just, Miss Betsy at the front desk who's like, yeah, that one seems that
Looks
seems
like
all
you.
right.
Yeah.
It seems like you, yeah.
Now,
And
every time you guys create a new tech, and then there's scammers and fraudsters out there
yep.
that they try to get one step ahead of you, and then you guys solve something. So When I know when I first started, and I don't know if this is still a big challenge because, like I said, like after the pandemic, more and more
Yep.
people started doing self showings. But the fear that we had was, what if somebody goes in, they steal all the appliances,
Yeah.
right? So, what do you say to people now when they bring that up as a? I'm still fearful that somebody's going to go in and either A, steal the appliances, or B, worse, now what's happening now is like they go in and they basically, you know, just squat and like,
Wow.
squat in the house. So
Yeah.
what are we doing now to solve those challenges?
Yeah, and I think one of the good things at this point is that there's a lot more tech that's available out there, not just the tech that we've created, like the proprietary tech that we've created, but there are more databases and APIs that we can tie our software into in order to do verification checks before somebody gets access to the property. Also, the bigger tenant turner gets, the more data we have that is proprietary to our system. And so if somebody has an issue, like, okay, we'll use Houston in that market. If one of the property management companies in Houston has an issue with somebody who viewed the property, they can mark that as an issue within the system, and then that person can't get access to other properties managed by other property managers. So just the sheer volume of data that we're able to process. And
Nice.
the other
You're
thing,
collecting like a database of scammers.
that's right. That's exactly what it is. And we create a digital fingerprint for every prospective tenant that comes to Tenant Turner. And so that information is obviously like name, email, phone number, but things like ID that we're able to collect, the ID number. So if they tried to manipulate it, but we can still run checks against that. IP address, device ID. So if they come from a particular phone versus another type of a device, we're building all this, this fingerprint for each person that comes to Tenant Turner. And if they change their email address, but they're using the same device ID, we can still create the connection behind them and make sure that they don't get access to a property that they shouldn't.
And so now that will help prevent squatters and scammers. And I feel bad for some of these people that they get scammed and they have
Yeah.
like it's this fake lease that they think that they're literally renting this place for $1,200 when it's clearly
Yep.
like $4,000 rental. Too
Yep.
good to be true means it's too good to be true. And then you have to like, go through a whole process of evicting them. And it's kind of a shame.
It
Um,
is. Yeah, and those are unfortunate situations in the world, right? There are bad people and there are gullible people, and the bad people will take advantage of the gullible people, and that will exist in any industry under any circumstance. But there are things that we do and to help prevent or minimize that impact. And
yep.
it's one of those things where we're able to recommend to our customers, say, hey, put up a sign at your property, let them know that if they saw this property on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, it's not legitimate. Contact Empire Property Management. Don't just talk to Joe Blow, that whoever they might be texting. But on the software side, what we're doing too is we're also running scans on those places that are, tend to be more scammy, like Facebook Marketplace in particular, and Craigslist, which is luckily less of a problem now than it was, say, a decade ago. But we're running scans on those to see if our customers' properties are showing up there, and if they are, we're able to mark those things as
As
fraud scams,
right.
and then those get pulled down.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I know the early days, man, we just had to watermark everything. Like that was the big defense
Oh
against
yeah.
scammers.
Yep.
Now and the
Yep.
scammers, they if they would just spend time building businesses instead of trying to scam people, they would probably be worth 10x more than what they are today.
Yeah, if they would spend their time creating legitimate businesses, right? It's pretty
Exactly.
wild what they're willing to do. It's just, yeah, they see these little opportunities to take advantage of people, less fortunate. And that's the thing too. And that's like the heartbreaking point, like you had mentioned about people who get scammed and whatnot. They often, these scammers, they're going after the most vulnerable, the people who don't have the most money, the people that
Yep.
can be manipulated. Oftentimes, like if there's a natural disaster, you'll see scams increase in that area, or certainly scam attempts
Sure.
increase in that area because somebody was displaced by a flood or a fire. And now they're very desperate to move into some place that they're willing to walk down to Walmart and send somebody Bitcoin, as the deposit for their property. And So we do what we can to prevent such things, and the management companies do what they can as well, and hopefully maybe the world will be a better place one day, and these bad
Never.
people will just go away.
Never. But yeah, I mean, look, it's like kind of like why do you lock your car? Because they can
Yeah.
steal it regardless, but it's a deterrent.
Yep.
Why do you have an alarm on a car? It's a deterrent. Why do you have a
All
dog
right.
in the house?
Exactly.
It's a deterrent. Alarm on the house. So the more
Yep.
things you can do to make it more difficult for the scamsters, they're gonna go find somebody else who's not a professional property manager,
Yep.
who maybe is leasing their own property, or they're just a realtor. They have none of these tools like Tenant Turner
Yep.
at their behest.
Yep.
I
Yep.
want to
That's
switch
exactly
gears here
it.
a little bit. Tenant Turner is widely known for its amazing customer service. You go ask anybody who's used Tenant Turner. I have a story that when I was with Empire and we had an issue with Tenant Turner, I called up our rep. I think his name was Calvin, right? I
Yeah.
called Calvin up, and Calvin stays on the phone with me for an hour, solves everything, fixes everything. And at the end of the phone call, he goes, "Oh, by the way, Pete, I have not been with Tenant Turner for over a month." And I'm like, "Why did you answer all my questions?" And Calvin's like, "Well, that's just the way we do things at Tenant Turner." And like,
Yep.
well, basically, like he had started his own property management company, and I think he's gonna hopefully he's very successful. This is years ago. I
He
haven't had
is.
touch with
Yeah.
him, but my guess is he's very successful because of that. What he learned as far as like that provide wow experience or that customer experience. My question to you as CEO is, how did you guys build that culture? That's not an easy
Yeah.
thing to build.
You're right. You're right. I think part of it is our approach to things. I mean, for the longest time, CEO of the small startup, I was providing direct customer support, kind of laying the foundation for how we wanted to interact with customers. I've always been very customer centric. So having those conversations with people, getting at the root of what their pain points are, getting that implemented back into the software. So I think part of it is being so customer driven, letting customers drive what our product roadmap is, and delivering a product that's really easy, for them to use and user friendly. That makes it so that way we can scale our support at a much more manageable amount. And then with our support personnel, we've always looked for people who are empathetic, who can connect with the customer, like Calvin. Like Calvin is one of those people, he's a member of our sales team, and he always found a way to connect with the customer, whether they were buying from him or not. He just wanted to be helpful. And that has really, been the pillar of our customer success team that's, currently led by Lane, who she's been with us for over 5 years. And we've had a couple of really strong customer success people that have really
Were
set
you
the
were you,
tone
were
for
you
the
using
culture.
anything during the hiring process to kind of find these type of people? Like, were you using like DISC or
Yep.
personality profiling? Were you using some kind of random test? Like, oh, if I throw this, piece of paper in the corner and they don't pick it up, like we're not gonna hire. Did you? What was your kind of
I
hiring
like that.
process
I'm
to
not sure if
find?
that's an actual hiring test, but I like that as a way to do that.
I'll pick it
Yeah.
up if it's a 50.
Exactly. I'm not picking up the trash. Exactly. It better be a green piece of paper. Yeah, I think for us, one of the best things we were able to do in the hiring process was to do writing prompts. So a lot of our customer support is run through our chat support tool. And so we would give candidates a series, basically a series of questions that
Like
were very common,
real world
real
experience
world.
questions. Yep.
Exactly. And then we kind of treated it like an open note quiz, right? Because the questions would be like, hey, my property listing isn't showing up on Zillow. Well, we don't expect every software support person to know what Zillow is if they're not from the industry, right? So we'd say, go look at our help center, and you could actually see how much of the help center they were able to ingest and understand and output back to the customer. You could really see how much they were able to connect with a customer who's really just a fake prompt that we provided them, and that really helped us hone in on people who were caring, and could handle the pressures of software support for this industry. And especially, this industry, right? It's very fast paced. We have leasing agents that we're supporting. We have property managers supporting directors of leasing and brokers and owners. And they're oftentimes not in the office all the time. And we need to be able to provide good support in a quick way. And we've been able to test that during the hiring process with those, those writing prompts.
Got it. Did you use any personality profiling at the time?
We didn't know. I think there's probably a profile that we were looking for and we interviewed for, but we didn't do any of the formal, personality profiling tools.
And then how did you keep them engaged as your business was growing? So like, I mean, again, great customer service. Customer service will beat you down. How do you keep engaged, for 5 years? You said Lane has 5 years.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you guys do to keep them engaged? Do you have like a certain CSAT score and then maybe to get a bonus on, or is it something completely different because I'm such a numbers and money driven guy.
Yeah. Yep.
I forget sometimes, just a pat on the back is what somebody needs. So what do you
Yeah.
guys do over there because I want to emulate at VPM what you guys are doing at Tenant Turner. I want people to say, man, VPM is the Tenant Turner of customer service. So we hit that pinnacle.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah.
I'm gonna make you a verb,
Um,
buddy. We'll make the Tenant Turner a verb. I just got Tenant Turnered. What does
I
that
got
mean?
tenant
I had
turn. It's a
great customer
positive. It's a
experience.
warm embrace, right?
It's a
Yeah.
warm embrace.
I love that.
It's a warm embrace
Um,
next to the bosom.
yes, exactly. Come in here, get in here, right? Yeah, I think as far as like that group, right? And so obviously with our sales folks, they had different incentives, right? So we would set them up for, commissions and accelerators and bonuses and things like that. On the customer success or support side of things, they're less money motivated. And that's not to say that, there are certain things that we would do to incentivize behaviors, right? But it was really for them, good salary, competitive, making sure that they did get, annual increases and stuff, which keeps them in there. But also more from the perspective, like you said, like they're more into a pat on the back. They're more into a thank you from a customer. Like that's what the people that we hired and those people who are that empathetic, that was what they look for as the big reward at the end of the day. And for them, they would continue to perform well, and obviously they would get, appropriate compensation based on that. But that group in general, they would kind of rally around each other, right? So it was like a group of them. That's one recommendation for sure. Is if you're going to have to build out this support structure, it's got to be more than one person. They have to be able to collaborate with each other. They have to be able to support each other just as much as they need to be able to support
So you
our
build like a true
customers.
team environment
Yeah. Yep.
that
Yeah, and for
everybody
us
like,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
all US based, all in Richmond. So these were people who were very interactive with each other on a day-to-day basis, being there to support each other in the most complex components of our software. And that's really what they rallied around. They wanted to be there for each other, be there for the customer, and be there for the company.
honestly, what your prompts must have come up and because to me, like I'm a big personality profile guy. I'm a big
Yep,
disc guy, and I know there's tons out there, but the S in disc is that empathetic, it's people focused, it's introverts for the most part. And
yep,
so it sounds like you hit on those type of people. They don't like a lot of change. My
yeah,
assumption is that there was not a lot of change in that department, or did that
that's
department
right.
change? Yeah, not that right.
Yeah, it's not
Development
not a
and
lot, right?
sales,
Like
that changes all the time, right?
exactly. Yep. Yep. And those sales guys, they thrive on it. They needed sales competitions and things like that. Like with our support team, we never wanted to incentivize the wrong behaviors, right? We never wanted to say, "Hey, let's close. Whoever can close the most conversations gets this," because that's not how we wanted to approach it. And one thing within that team too, we had different people who had different strengths, and that was also a kind of a key to success with that group. There are kind of three main components of customer success within Tenant Turner. There's our customer support component. There's our training component when we bring on new customers. And then there's more of a kind of a Q&A or deep dive call if there's a problem. So problem solving. So it's kind of problem solving, and then there's the chat support, and then there's also the training. And we let
Would you
them
put
all
training as
kind of do,
onboarding as well? Training
yeah,
slash
onboarding.
onboarding? Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. And they really thrived being able to dip their toes into each little thing. So they're not just always training, which might get a little bit monotonous, but they enjoy doing that a third of their day. Then a third of their day they're doing customer support, and then a third of the day they're doing more technical, in-depth support. And I think that
How
kept things interesting for them.
one of the things that popped into my head is like those folks love to build relationships.
Yep.
Right. So we always think of like our salespeople need to build relationships, but actually your customer support team, if they build those relationships with your clients, the client, your churn rate goes down on your client churn goes down. And
Yep.
so yeah, I think they're literally working with clients, people focused, right? They're introverts, but they're still people focused. And they really like to help people. And
Yep.
you've built something where they actually help people through the whole process.
Yeah, and they get that dopamine hit, right? Like the sales guys get it when they close a deal. For these folks, it's when they solve somebody's problem,
That's right.
you know, and that's what gets them jazzed up and
Or
gets
they
them out
get
of
a
bed
they
in the
get a
morning.
they get a 5-star review, or they get an
Yep.
attaboy, or they get a client that's a happy client, right?
Yep.
Or they onboard somebody who had all these questions, and now the person's super happy and they
Yep.
got a referral or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So that yeah. I'm looking at this from a property manager point of view, right? You have your onboarding team, and then you have your kind of like your department, your either your departments or your property manager. And so, some of these folks, on property management, especially like your onboarding team, like CS, SC, or like you have to find these type of people because they're not getting those dopamine hits of selling. They're getting
Yep.
dopamine hits of like, I have a happy client who's been onboarded. I have a happy client, I solved their leasing issue. I have a happy client, I solved their maintenance issue, things of that
Yep.
nature. So, excellent. That's really, really good information. Okay, so I'm gonna pivot again, and
Okay.
I'm gonna get you on this one. What is the hardest thing you've ever done? Now we see the final piece of it, right? We see James;
Yep.
he's super successful. Tenant Turner is very successful in our industry. So I'm seeing the finished product. But what was the hardest thing you ever done?
Yeah, I would say looking back at, our history with Tenant Turner in 2015, myself and my co-founders, we moved out to California from Virginia and we lived in Silicon Valley for 3 months to participate in Y Combinator, which is just a world-class startup accelerator that helped amplify what we were doing as a business. But we had to leave our families behind. At the time, my kids were like preschool age, and my wife and I hadn't really spent that much time apart before. So to spend that much time on the other side of the country, it was really difficult. It was the best thing for the business. It was the best thing for myself and my partner to be able to be really focused in developing the tool and the business that we have today. But to leave a lot behind was a challenge, and yeah, it was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Wow. Yeah. Well, congrats on getting into Y Combinator. I don't know how
Yeah,
hard it was 10 years ago, but it's almost impossible to get in these days. And if you want to be around people, that have completed something, you have to join them. And so
yeah,
with Y Combinator, you literally got thrown in, and you were hanging out with people who have taken tech companies from idea to market.
yeah, yeah. At the time, the hot topic these days, right, is AI. Like Sam Altman was there. He was the CEO of OpenAI, and there's a lot of amazing minds that were there and that really helped us level up and help the company level up and accelerate our development. And it was a great experience, and we're glad we did it. And you know how it is, even just like within the NARPM community, right? You have to be around people who are doing what you're doing. You have to be able to share stories and be vulnerable and tell stories, and that's how you're going to get it to the next level.
But every successful person has had has had that moment where either I've lost a business, or I mean, you gave up your family for was it 3 months?
3 months, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's rough, man. Going to live in California for three
yeah,
months on the other side of the country. So, congrats though. But it worked, right? And now
yeah.
those 3 months seems like a blip.
That's right.
I'm
Yeah, at
I'm
the
sure it
time it
wasn't
was.
those days. I'm your wife
Yeah.
with young children. You probably weren't her favorite person at the time.
No, and I remember it was she couldn't go anywhere, right? Because like she puts the kid to bed, she's got no place to go because I wasn't home to be able to watch the kids or anything like that. And so she actually spent that summer painting the entire kitchen. And I think that was like her coping mechanism. So I'm building software with my guys. She's redesigning the house and painting the entire kitchen. And so it
Behind
all
every
worked out in the
successful
end.
man is a strong woman. That's
Right.
for
That's
sure.
right.
All right. So you mentioned Sam Altman and AI, OpenAI. So where do you see, you're one of the big thinkers in the industry. Where do you see AI being used in this industry?
Yeah, and you know the cool thing about AI, it's definitely been in the industry for a while, right? And something that we've utilized AI for, something we've already talked about around fraud detection. And so AI got great marketing, but what AI was before AI, it was big data and big data analysis and taking large data sets and being able to analyze them and improve upon some algorithm automatically. And for us, you know, a big component that we use AI for is that fraud detection, the fraud prevention, and taking the data and the data sets that we have and preventing any sort of negative behavior. So I think that is going to be big because rental fraud exists well beyond just within the showing process, right? It's part of the application process. And there's some companies out there now who are using more and more AI components to prevent rental application fraud and document fraud. Yeah, I'm not sure, you know, products like pet screening and whatnot, if they're using AI, but I'm sure to a certain extent they probably are because they're having to do rapid document detection and verification. So there's probably an AI component to that too. And AI is really good about processing lots of data, comparing it to a bunch of other data points, and learning on how it can do that better, faster, stronger. So I think there's going to continue to be a lot of emphasis within our industry, within that, you know, that kind of component, fraud prevention, fraud detection.
So you're a tech guy, so my guess is you don't believe that the machines are going to rise up against us, i.e., like Terminator. You think we'll be able to utilize AI as a tool, just like we utilized the internet back in 1999 or 2000? Is that
Exactly. That's my stance on it, right? And you know, we will continue to see things evolve. I think something that's really interesting on the AI front is what you see a lot of these big tech companies doing, where they're reactivating nuclear power plants because they need so much processing power and electricity to be able to handle all these AI, you know, type calculations and whatnot. So at the stage we're at right now, it is a great tool. It is a great feature on existing software. There's, you know, many softwares that we interact with on a day-to-day basis that already have AI components built in. And that's a good thing because it makes us all more
VPM is
efficient.
working on some AI bots right now inside of our platform to be able to match people better with
Yeah,
job postings. Yeah.
yeah, and that's a great use of AI. You know, we're going back to the customer support component too. The support tools that we utilize, it's their AI that we've been feeding data into and been training, right? So that's
Was
another
the
great use
chatbot like
case.
kind of like version one of it? Is the
Yeah,
chatbot considered AI? I'm asking. I don't know. Like,
yeah. For the most part, most chatbots that you're going to interact with are AI. At this stage, right? You know, just a few years ago, it's basically the chatbot's going to ask a question and have a couple of like structured data responses and say, I'm this or I'm that or I need this or I need that, and then based upon that, those are more like simplified decision trees. So it's
okay.
software basically say if this then that type situations. But with AI, the whole hope is that you're going to be able to interact with it more realistically without having to have a predetermined path that's created in some sort of workflow tool. So I think property management is a great industry for it because there's a lot of different workflows that we have, whether it's on the leasing side or the maintenance side. And AI will help drive solutions to our customers, whether it's owners or prospective tenants, much faster than if we have to wait for a real human to do it, or it can be much more flexible than just kind of a traditional if this then that type software solution.
How far away do you think like products are out there that are easily to be able to use for AI for customer service, maintenance, things of that nature? You think we're a year away too, or actually like we're there?
I think we're still getting there, right? Like I think people are incorporating AI in their platforms. I think what's going to be exciting over the next few years really is when people build new features and capabilities into their platforms utilizing AI first. And I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is like, okay, our software does this thing. Let's utilize AI to make the thing that our software does more efficient or effective. But what we're going to see more of is like, well, let's build this new capability within our platform and let's do it with AI. and AI is at the core of what's being built versus being layered in kind of after the fact. So I think that's where we're going to start to see some really exciting improvements over the next few years. But I think we should all embrace the little bits of AI that we're getting right now because it ultimately is going to make us just like software did, like you had mentioned, just like software and the internet had previously.
Mhm.
AI is going to make our teams, ourselves, and our lives more efficient.
Thanks, James. We're going to take a quick commercial break and then we're going to come back with the lightning round.
Great.
Right back, everybody. All right, welcome back. We got James Barrett, CEO of Tenant Turner, on the hot seat, the lightning round.
All
All right,
right.
let's see here. All right, what is one piece of advice you would give someone starting out in the property management business?
Oh, I would say, I mean, again, as a software guy, embrace software, even if it's not Tenant Turner, right? Go into your property management business with an automation mindset. And if you can start with a good foundation, you're immediately able to scale much faster. And there's so many great tools out there for you.
Do you use virtual assistants?
We have used virtual assistants for various tasks. A lot of ways I should probably have one just for myself. Maybe one day.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Really controversial, but I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say probably top five pizzas for me would include pineapple. Like a Caribbean jerk or like a pineapple and ham. I'm here for
All right, man. Well, we differ on a few things. That's one of them. It's okay though. Still love you, man. Um, I, I know you probably don't go to fast food often, but when you do go, what's your go-to?
it. Chick-fil-A, definitely spicy chicken
We're back
sandwich,
in good
extra
graces.
pickle. Yeah. Yep. There we
You
go.
said a
Thanks.
spicy chicken with extra pickle? I love that.
Spicy chicken, extra pickle. Yeah, don't
I'm doing that
the
from now
extra
on.
pickle? I was anti-pickle for a long time, and then Chick-fil-A brought me back into this pickle world. And now I'm not only there, but I'm extra the pickle. So
I get the spicy chicken. I love the pickle. It's never
yeah,
enough. I never even thought to ask for extra pickle. I'm doing it. You just changed.
game
You know,
changer,
I just
game
changed my
changer.
life. What was your first job?
First job was a waiter at a retirement home. So I would work in the dining room. I had to wear a cummerbund and
So
a bow
dinner from
tie.
3 to 4.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. Well, the best part about the job was I'm in high school and I was home every night by 9 o'clock. It
I
wasn't
bet.
like a normal restaurant job where you're working till 2 a.m.
uh, what's your ideal vacation?
Oof. My ideal vacation is some sort of adventure, whether it's a skiing adventure or if we're going to the beach. I'd like to go on different excursions. I like to explore whatever wherever we're at. Like we went to Puerto Rico last this was about a year ago, and one of our favorite things was just a food tour, and it's like you're just walking through the city, downtown San Juan, and you're just being exposed to a lot more. And we just love getting out there and learning something new about new cultures.
I'm like you, man. I love the adventures.
Yeah.
Um, if you could have dinner with anyone who is alive, who would it be?
Oh, anyone who is alive. Um, this is probably a common thing, but the first name that popped into my head was Elon Musk. I think
Yeah.
he's a controversial person for various reasons, but I think he's an interesting person. And as somebody who has created a business and one business and knows how hard it is to have seen him create all of these businesses and watch him operate all of those businesses simultaneously, it's just a fascinating
He
individual.
is fascinating. I
Yeah.
agree. That's a great answer. What is one challenge you're facing in your business?
Yeah, I would say in our business, gosh, that's a great question. One of the challenges we had was very recently is hiring. So hiring, unemployment still is very, very low, and bringing on new people, particularly as we just talked about with our customer success and support, like we're looking for a particular type of person, and we're not afraid to say no to good people in order to get the great people. So I think that's always a challenge, and obviously I think something that you can help people with, right? But so.
You prefer dogs or cats?
Definitely dogs.
Dog guy. All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. You're off the hot seat.
Woo! I'm
You're
feeling
off
that
the
one,
hot
you
seat.
know?
Yeah. All right. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, James, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, as far as getting in touch with the company, tenantturner.com, me specifically, James at tenantturner.com, or find me on LinkedIn. Lots of connections with property managers, and also might see you at a conference at some point if we haven't already met, right?
And if you are listening to this and you're not a NARPM member, join NARPM, go to narpm.org or give them a call at 800-782-3452. And if you are looking to hire remotely, you're looking for a remote team, give vpmsolutions.com a chance. It's free for you to browse, create a profile, browse over. I think we have over 39,000 profiles now on the platform. We have over 45 VPM Academy courses for the industry, or you can email me at pete@vpmsolutions.com. Thanks, James, for being here. Appreciate you.
All
See
right.
you, everybody.
Thank you, Pete.